Have you ever done everything right and still got left? You stayed calm when you wanted to scream. You smiled when you wanted to cry. You swallowed your feelings so deep that you forgot they existed. You became the perfect partner, the perfect friend, the perfect version of yourself, and the person you were trying to hold on to quietly slipped away. If this has happened to you, listen carefully, because what I'm about to tell you might save everything you thought was lost. Here is the cruel truth that nobody talks about. You were not rejected because you were broken. You were rejected because you were flawless. And that might sound impossible. It might feel like a punch in the stomach. But keep watching, because by the end of this section, you will understand something that most people never learn. You are about to discover why your perfection is the very thing destroying your connections. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you showed someone your mess? Not the curated version, not the polished version, the real version. The one that gets frustrated, the one that gets scared, the one that sometimes doesn't know what to do. For most people, the answer is never. And that is exactly where the problem begins. There is a silent war happening inside every person who tries to be perfect. It started a long time ago, maybe when you were a child, maybe when you learned that love had conditions, maybe when you discovered that being difficult meant being abandoned. So you made a decision so deep that you forgot you even made it. You decided to become perfect, not because you wanted to, but because it felt safe, because it worked, because being flawless kept the peace. And for a while, it did work. People liked you, people stayed around you, people called you easy to be with, and you thought you had cracked the code. You thought if you just kept being good enough, patient enough, understanding enough, they would never leave. But then something changed. They started pulling away, not because they were bad people, not because they didn't love you, but because something inside them felt off. They could not name it. You could not name it. But the distance grew bigger every single day. And here is where it gets painful. You did what you always did. You tried harder. You smoothed things over. You never made a scene. You were understanding. You were accommodating. You were perfect. And they still left. That is the paradox that breaks people. The harder you try to be flawless, the more people run. Why does this happen? Why would someone leave a person who never causes problems? Why would someone walk away from someone who is always giving, always kind, always perfect? Because perfection is terrifying. Think about that for a moment. When you are with someone who never cracks, never struggles, never needs anything, you feel something strange. You feel like you do not matter. You feel like you are not needed. You feel like you could disappear tomorrow and they would be fine. Because they have never shown you that you are important to them. They have never shown you their vulnerability. They have never let you see that they need you. And the human brain does something dangerous with that feeling. It starts to convince itself that this person is not safe, not because they are bad, but because they are unreachable. And unreachable people feel like threats, even when they are being kind, even when they are being perfect. Here is what you need to understand about human psychology. People do not connect with perfection. People connect with truth. They connect with someone who is standing right there in the mud with them, not someone standing on a pedestal with a perfect smile. When you refuse to be imperfect, you are sending a silent message. And that message says, I do not need you. Every time you swallow your feelings, every time you stay calm when you are boiling inside, every time you pretend everything is fine when it is not, you are telling them they are not needed. And that message is louder than any words you could ever speak. So they start looking for the exit, not because they want to leave, but because they feel like they never entered in the first place. You were right there, but you were never really there. And that is the tragedy of perfection. It makes you present but invisible. It keeps you close but unknown. It gives you a relationship on the surface while slowly killing everything underneath. Now I want you to think about someone in your life who you felt truly close to, not comfortable, not safe, close, real, deep. What did they do that made you feel that way? They probably made mistakes. They probably showed you when they were struggling. They probably let you see parts of them that were not impressive. And that is exactly why you felt connected. Because they let you in. They let you see them. They did not hide behind a perfect mask. That is what people are looking for. Not perfection, presence. And if you are watching this, there is a very high chance that someone walked away from you while you were being your best self, and you have been confused ever since. You have been replaying every moment. You have been wondering what you did wrong. You did nothing wrong. You just did nothing human, and that is about to change. Stay with me, because in the next section, I am going to show you exactly why your brain learned to become perfect. And more importantly, I am going to show you exactly how to break that pattern forever. You did not come this far to stay stuck, so keep watching. The best is still coming. You might be sitting there right now thinking, but if I stop being perfect, they will leave even faster. That is the fear talking, and it is the same fear that got you into this mess in the first place. Let me explain what is really happening inside the mind of someone who pulls away from perfection. There is something called attachment theory, and it is one of the most powerful forces in human psychology. When a person grows up in an environment where love was unpredictable, where connection came and went without warning, their brain builds a defense system. That defense system has one main job: protect them from getting hurt again. Now watch what happens when this person meets you. You are calm, you are composed, you never make demands, you never get angry, you are everything they think they want. But something feels wrong, and they cannot explain it. Here is why. When you are perfect, you look like every person who ever left them. Not in words, not in actions, but in energy. Because people who leave usually do so quietly. They do not fight, they do not argue, they just fade. And that is exactly what your perfection reminds them of. Someone who was there one day and gone the next without any warning. When you show no cracks, your partner's brain sends them a dangerous signal. It says, this person does not need me. This person can leave anytime and be completely fine. And that thought creates a strange kind of panic, not because they want you to need them in a dependent way, but because real connection requires mutual need. Real love requires two people who would miss each other. And when you are perfect, you look like someone who would be just fine alone. So they start pulling back, not because they stopped loving you, but because they feel like they never truly had you. Your body was there, your presence was there, but your heart was hidden behind a wall of performance. And the worst part is you do not even see it happening. You see them pulling away and you think, I need to be better. I need to try harder. I need to fix this. So you become even more perfect. You become even more accommodating. You become even more flawless. And you wonder why they run faster. The answer is simple. Every layer of perfection you add is another layer of distance between you. You have to understand something critical here. Avoidant people are not running from your love. They are running from your completeness. They are running from the silent threat of someone who never needs anything. Because deep down, they do not believe they are enough. And when you never show any need for them, their brain interprets that as proof that they are not needed, that they are invisible, that they could never give you anything that you could not give yourself. And that feeling is unbearable. So they leave before they get the chance to feel unwanted. They create distance before they can be forgotten. They push you away because your perfection made them feel like they did not matter. This is where most people get lost. They think, if I just show them how much I care, if I just prove myself more, they will see that I am not going anywhere. But that is not how it works. They cannot see your care through your perfection. They can only see that you are performing. And performance feels fake, even when it is genuine. There is another layer to this that most videos will never tell you. When you are perfect, you are also being dishonest. Not because you are lying, but because you are hiding. And people can feel hiddenness even when they cannot see it. There is something in human psychology that detects when someone is not showing their real self. And when that detection happens, trust starts to crumble. You cannot trust someone you do not know, and you cannot know someone who will not let themselves be seen. So here's the question you have to ask yourself. Are you being perfect because you want to be? Or are you being perfect because you are afraid of what happens if you are not? Because there is a massive difference between those two things. One comes from love, the other comes from fear. One builds connection, the other destroys it. And if you have been performing perfection out of fear, then every perfect moment you created was actually a moment of distance. Every time you swallowed your truth to keep the peace, you told them that your truth does not matter. Every time you stayed calm to avoid conflict, you showed them that your real feelings are not welcome. And that is why they left. Not because you were wrong, because you were hiding. Now I want you to sit with this feeling for a moment. Let it sink in, because everything we just covered is the foundation for what comes next. And what comes next is going to change everything for you. You are about to discover how this pattern started, how your brain learned to hide behind perfection. And more importantly, you are about to learn exactly how to stop. The wall you built was not built in a day, but it can come down faster than you think. Stay right here, because this is where your transformation begins. There is a wall inside you right now. You built it brick by brick over many years, and you did not even realize you were building it. Every time you chose peace over truth, you laid another brick. Every time you swallowed what you really felt, you lifted another stone. Every time you decided that keeping someone was more important than being real, you added another layer of protection. And now that wall stands between you and every connection you long for. Here is what most people never realize. You did not build that wall because you wanted to hide. You built it because at some point in your life, being real got you hurt. Maybe it was your parents. Maybe it was your first love. Maybe it was a friend who left when you finally opened up. Somewhere along the way, your brain made a calculation. It decided that vulnerability was dangerous, that showing your true feelings was a liability, that the only way to survive was to perform, to be perfect, to never let anyone see the mess underneath. And that calculation saved you once. It helped you navigate relationships without getting burned. It gave you a sense of control in situations that felt chaotic, but it also locked you in a prison you cannot see. The problem with that wall is that it keeps everything out while keeping you trapped inside. Think about the last time you wanted to tell someone how you really felt. Maybe you were upset about something they did, maybe you needed something from them, maybe you were scared and needed comfort. What did you do instead? You stayed quiet. You made an excuse. You told yourself it was not worth making a scene. You convinced yourself that being the bigger person meant swallowing your truth. But that was not being the bigger person. That was being the smaller version of yourself. And it is happening every single day. Every conversation where you nod along when you want to push back. Every moment where you pretend everything is fine when it is not. Every time you choose to perform calm instead of expressing what is really inside you. That is not maturity, that is hiding, and hiding is the slowest form of disconnection. Your brain learned this pattern so long ago that it feels natural now. It feels like this is just who you are, someone who stays composed, someone who never makes a mess, someone who is easy to be with. But that is not who you are. That is who you learned to become to survive. And there is a massive difference between those two things. You did not arrive in this world with a perfect mask on your face. You arrived as a feeling, messy, vulnerable human being. Someone who got frustrated, someone who got scared, someone who needed people. And somewhere along the way, that authentic version of you got rejected so many times that it went into hiding. Your perfection is not a sign of strength. It is a sign of survival. Now I want you to understand something that is going to change how you see yourself. That wall you built is not protecting you anymore. It is trapping you. Every time you add another brick, you are not keeping people safe. You are keeping yourself alone. You are creating distance that feels like safety, but is actually the loneliest place a person can be. And here's the cycle that nobody talks about. You perfect yourself because you are afraid of rejection. They feel the distance your perfection creates. They start to pull away. You notice them pulling away, and your fear increases. So you become even more perfect to try to win them back. They feel even more disconnected. They pull back further. And you repeat this pattern until they finally leave. And when they leave, you think, see, I knew I should have been better. But you never connect the dots. You never realize that your perfection is what pushed them away, that your armor is what made you unreachable. This cycle has repeated in every relationship you have ever had, not because you are flawed, but because you never let anyone pass the wall. The people who got close never actually got close. They touched the wall and felt the cold surface and thought that was all there was to you. And they walked away not realizing that the real you was buried behind that wall, desperate to be seen, desperate to be known, desperate to be loved for who you really are. This is the wake-up call. Your perfection is not your gift. Your perfection is your prison. Your ability to stay calm, to never make a scene, to always be understanding, to never show your cracks. That is not protecting your relationships. That is killing them slowly. Every single day you choose the wall over the truth, you are choosing loneliness over connection. You are choosing survival over living. And I know this is scary. I know that the idea of dropping the mask feels like dropping into free fall. I know that your brain is screaming at you right now that if you stop being perfect, people will leave. And maybe some people will, but the right people will finally stay. The right people do not need your perfection. They need your truth. They need your mess. They need the real version of you that you have been hiding for so long. That version of you is not weak. That version of you is not broken. That version of you is the most powerful thing you have ever had, and it is time to let it breathe. The pattern ends today. Everything you just learned about why your perfection pushes people away, about the wall you built to survive, about the cycle that has repeated itself over and over again, it all comes down to this moment. This is where it changes. This is where you stop being a prisoner of your own armor and start becoming the person you were always meant to be. Here is the truth that will set you free. Your imperfections are not liabilities. They are invitations. Every crack in your surface is an open door. Every moment you show someone your confusion, your frustration, your fear, you are saying something powerful without using words. You are saying, I trust you. I feel safe with you. You matter to me enough that I will let you see me when I am not impressive. And that message is the foundation of every deep connection that has ever existed. Stop trying to be the person who has everything together. Start being the person who is willing to be seen falling apart. This is not about becoming a mess. This is about becoming real. There is a difference between someone who is falling apart because they have no control and someone who is letting themselves be human because they finally feel safe enough to do so. You are choosing the second option. You are choosing to stop performing and start connecting. Here is what that looks like in practice. When you feel frustrated, do not swallow it immediately. Say it out loud, not in an aggressive way, but in an honest way. Tell the person, hey, this is bothering me. When you are confused, do not pretend to have the answers. Say, I do not know what to do here. When you are scared, do not hide behind a calm face. Let them see that you are human. Let them see that you need them, not in a desperate way, but in a real way. This is terrifying at first. Your brain is going to scream at you that this is dangerous, that you are making a mistake, that you should go back to your armor and stay safe behind your wall. And every single time that happens, you need to remind yourself of one thing. The people who left you were